You know that feeling, right? Your eyes are scanning a page, but your mind, well, it's a million miles away. We've all been there. Today, we're diving deep into the science of that wandering mind. So what's really going on inside our heads when we totally zone out? Let's get into it.
Okay, so first things first, what exactly is a wandering mind? It's that familiar feeling when your thoughts just seem to go off leash and take on a life of their own. I mean, seriously, this is the classic example. You get to the bottom of the page, your eyes have definitely seen every single word, but your brain was checked out on some other adventure entirely. You have absolutely no idea what you just read. That right there, that's the signature of a wandering mind.
And hey, if you think it's just you, it's not. Get this. Some research suggests our minds are wandering for up to half of our waking hours. 50%. Think about that. That is a huge chunk of our day spent mentally away from the here and now. Now, before we go any further, let's clear something up, because the words get used interchangeably. In scientific terms, mind wandering and daydreaming aren't quite the same thing. Mind wandering is when you drift away from a task you're supposed to be doing, like reading a book. Daydreaming, that's when there's no task at all. You're just, staring out a bus window, letting your thoughts float freely.
All right, but here's where things get really fascinating. It turns out that not all mind wandering is created equal. Nope. Scientists have found there's a really important distinction to be made. In fact, researchers are now splitting it into two totally distinct types. And the whole difference boils down to one simple but crucial factor: intention. Okay, so on one side, you've got unintentional mind wandering. This is when your attention just slips away. You don't even realize it's happening. Then on the other side, you have intentional mind wandering. This is when you consciously decide to think about something else. Like when you're stuck in a really boring meeting and you start planning your weekend. One is a slip, the other is a choice.
And this quote from the researchers just sums it up perfectly. The unintentional kind just happens to you. You suddenly wake up and realize, whoa, where was I for the last 5 minutes? But the intentional kind starts with a deliberate thought. Okay, I'm going to tune this out for a bit.
So this raises a huge question, right? How on earth can scientists measure something so private and fleeting? How do you actually catch a wandering thought in the act? Well, believe it or not, the answer might be quite literally at our fingertips.
I mean, this is the central challenge. Sure, you can ask people if their mind is wandering, but that's subjective. To really understand what's happening in the brain, scientists needed an objective physical signal, a clear sign that someone's attention has gone off task.
And they found it with this really clever experiment. Basically, they put people inside an fMRI machine, that's a brain scanner, and had them do a super simple rhythmic finger tapping task. By watching both their taps and their brain activity at the same time, they could start to connect our inner world with our outer actions. The key metric they were tracking is something called behavioral variability, or BV for short. Now that sounds technical, but it's really just a fancy way of asking, how steady is your finger tapping? Are you keeping a perfect beat, or is your rhythm getting a little messy and all over the place? And here it is, the big breakthrough. The researchers found a direct, measurable link. The very moment a person's mind started to wander, their finger tapping got more erratic and inconsistent. This was huge. It meant they had found a physical fingerprint for a purely mental event, a game changer.
Okay, so let's peek inside the brain with those fMRI scans. When someone is doing a really demanding random tapping task, you see all those bright spots light up. That's the brain's executive control network, the part that's really focused and working hard. But for a simple repetitive task, a totally different network takes over, the default mode network, which is kind of like the brain's autopilot. And check this out. This is where it all comes together. It's incredible. The moment those finger taps get erratic, that physical sign that the mind is wandering, boom, you see a big spike of activity in the brain's attention networks. It's almost like the brain is sending up a flare, saying, hey, pay attention, you're drifting. And then on the flip side, when the taps are nice and stable and the person is focused, you see that the default mode network, that autopilot system, is running the show. So there it is, clear as day, a measurable link between our behavior, our focus, and which network in our brain is in the driver's seat.
So this is all fascinating science, right? But what does this new understanding, the different types, the brain science, what does it actually mean for us in our daily lives? Can we actually put this mind wandering to good use?
Absolutely. Mind wandering isn't just a bug in our mental software, When used correctly, it can be an amazing feature. When we let our minds wander intentionally, that's often where our best aha moments come from. It's how we find a mental escape from a boring task, or how we do some of our most important planning for the future.
The downside, though, well, that almost always comes from that unintentional wandering. That's the kind that makes you miss crucial information in a meeting. And much more seriously, it's what can make it incredibly dangerous to zone out when you're supposed to be focused on something like driving. It really is all about context and intention.
So, what's the game plan? How do we make this work for us? Well, first, just start to notice when your mind is wandering. Just become aware of it and ask, hey, did I mean to do that? Second, think about context. Let your mind roam free while you're washing the dishes, for sure, but not while you're driving in heavy traffic. And finally, if you can, try to gently steer those wandering thoughts toward things that are positive or productive.
So, by understanding this crucial difference between an intentional choice and an unintentional slip, we can stop beating ourselves up for a lack of focus. Instead, we can start using mind wandering as the powerful cognitive tool it can be. The choice, it turns out, is ours. So, now that you know the difference, where will you let your mind wander?